Hello, my name is Jared Northrup, and today I'm going to talk to you about Romanesque architecture. Romanesque is an architectural style that dominated in Western Europe in the 11th and 12th centuries, and whose name means "from Rome." This was a coined term in the 19th century, reflecting the fact that Romanesque buildings, like those in the ancient Roman Empire, tend to display a strong sense of proportion and order, are solid and robust, and feature numerous rounded arches and vaults, a key difference from Greek architecture, which did not use arches and vaults at all. Despite its name, the inspiration behind Romanesque architecture was not from Rome, but the architecture of the Byzantine Empire. The church of the St. Vital in Italy, dating back from the 6th century, was one building that had major influence. Inside the building you can see many Romanesque characteristics, in which we will talk about later, one being its glorious arches that run your eyes up and down the building's walls. This building also inspired the palace complex of Emperor Charles the Great in Germany, built around 800 AD. Charles the Great was a key figure of the Middle Ages, the first ruler to unite Western Europe since the Roman Empire, and the shaper of European identity. Charles the Great's court in Germany was legendary. It had major influence on the culture, including the architecture, of much of Western Europe. Romanesque architecture was developed from the buildings reconstructed during Charles the Great's reign. This is Charles the Great's palace complex, and much like St. Vital, you can see Romanesque characteristics such as the arches that run your eyes up the walls and the small windows above. Romanesque architecture developed at a time of increasing religious fever and a rise of tradition of pilgrimages to the shrines of important saints. To accommodate these pilgrims, churches became larger and tended to be cross-like in shape. This shape had an advantage to allow more people to view sacred relics put on display in the center of the two arms. Now, all Romanesque architectural buildings had the same concept of a cross-like structure, a nave that ran up the middle, leading to an apse which usually held the main relics. Beside the nave, they usually had two aisles on each side. The interiors of Romanesque churches were usually covered with brightly colored sculptures, carvings, and paintings, as well as depicting scenes from the Bible. Much of the population of Europe at the time was illiterate, and images were therefore a very useful way of conveying a religious message. The move from wooden to stone buildings was also a characteristic of this period in which Romanesque architecture developed. Building large churches in stone meant the walls had to be extremely thick and windows quite small in order to prevent collapsing. With time and practice, less bulky construction techniques became possible. These first seen in Romanesque buildings such as the Durham Cathedral were redefined with time, leading to the style that followed Romanesque, which was the Gothic architectural period that took place in the 13th and 15th century. In these new Gothic architectural buildings, you can see some of the same characteristics as you see in the Romanesque period, such as the big arches that run your eyes up the walls, and the big open areas that allow many people to gather. With its revolutionary design, Romanesque architecture transformed the way churches were built. Many believe that Gothic churches were the best ever made, and I believe it is important to know where Gothic architecture inspiration came from. That is all. Thank you for watching.